Hello and welcome to Service Management for Sage 300 users. Amanda here from Microchannel Marketing. And today I'm joined by Mark Kornhauser. He's the Managing Director of Sage ISV Technisoft. Mark will be showing us around Service Manager. So take it away, Mark.
Okay, hi everybody. First thing is I'll talk a bit about Technisoft, integration to Sage 300, Service Manager overview, and some add-ons that we have. So the agenda itself, I'll be creating some quotes, moving a quote to a job without having to rekey anything, and the quote sets it up as a budget as well. We'll look at projects, invoices, credit notes, and templates. We'll then look at the job scheduling tools and how they integrate to Field Portal, and we'll look at some agreements along the way, and labour and time billing, advanced maintenance, quick entree on advanced maintenance, and then we'll finish off with customer portal and the web screens. So Technisoft, founded in 1987, we've been doing it for quite some time, and over 30 years, and highly focused R&D team. All fairly straightforward stuff. I can let you read that. I don't want to go into too much detail there, so we can move on with the presentation. Important to note that Service Manager is fully integrated with the Sage 300 desktop. So as you can see, Service Manager is another module like any of your other modules, and there's all single entries. So if you're doing accounts payable, it's single entry. If you're doing accounts receivable, your invoice updates, your ledgers, and so forth. All your inventory is taken directly from inventory control. And if you're raising purchase orders, you'll be raising them directly in the Sage 300 system. So basically, rather than having many disparate systems, you have one fully integrated system, and we like to call that a 50,000-foot view, if you like, at your data, so you can see not only your accounting data, but also your front office data as well. There is serialized lot tracking support as well, and there's integration to CRM. And then on the on our side of the coin, we have service centers. So that's where you have multiple geographic sites, but they can be divisions as well. So it could be a service division and an installation division, for example, or it could be a geographic site, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, that sort of thing. There is a customer portal which allows your customers to log into your own website and go to a portal where they can log a job or even request a quote. The portal allows them to approve a quote online, so they don't have to do anything but approve it online. You can take meter readings there. They can pay invoices. They can request jobs as well, and it's a very comprehensive system where they can even chat with you online if you're live with them. Field Portal is our mobile software. It works on Android, Apple, and Windows devices, any type of device. And we have a browser-based version and an app version. Then there's advanced maintenance for those that do preventative maintenance. So if you have a reason to do monthly, quarterly, half-yearly, yearly type maintenance, or even daily or weekly maintenance, you can schedule that in advance. That means you can identify the part requirements that you might have, the labor requirements that you might have, or contractor requirements.
Muted.
Also works on meter readings. So if you have readings like 250 hour, 1000 hour, you can do those sorts of things as well. And you can have a combination of scheduler and meter readings too, if necessary. We also have the advanced scheduling functionality, and that allows you to schedule all your resources. Now, your resources can be your own employees, they can be your contractors, and you can also schedule your own internal equipment, which can often be as a result of renting equipment, for example. And lastly, we have the employee portal, which lets your employees log in through the web. Now, this will become redundant shortly when the web screens are released. So I don't talk much about this product anymore because we're just about to release web screens, and then obviously you don't need a web integration because it's fully integrated to the Sage 300 web screens. And of course, in the center here, we have all our projects, jobs, quotes, and so forth. So what are the sort of business challenges that Service Manager resolves? It makes sure that everything needs to be billed is billed. Often you can see you don't know what's outstanding, you don't know what's been left that needs completion, and your team can always find that very quickly. We have tools there that show that at an instant or at a straightforward view. And so that's the first important thing. We provide a complete and update to financial information. So again, if you're doing, and that ties in with your tight integration with proven reliability and financial accounting system. And so if you're doing an accounts payable transaction, maybe a cost that one of your staff has incurred in the field, that goes straight in accounts payable and updates the job with the cost at the same time. If you're doing an invoice, as I said, into accounts receivable, parts are taken from inventory and purchase orders, that whole system is fully integrated. You've got complete control of your resources. That's another important part of the process. And that's where advanced scheduling shows you where all your people are at any time. You can reschedule them and you can look at the jobs that are open. And we have some fantastic dashboards in that regard as well. You can manage your projects, jobs, phases, sub-phases, tasks, and activities all throughout the system. So it's a complete job costing function as well. And there's a complete life cycle history of all your equipment servicing. So if you're servicing your equipment on a regular basis, you purchased it for a certain value, you've got a life cycle of all that servicing, and you might have even sold it at some point. And so that is a full history of everything that's ever occurred to that equipment. So Service Manager really is better management, better information, better profitability, and much, much, much better customer service. Now, I'm not going to go into this slide, but you can see that how comprehensive, from financials to maintenance, job ticketing, contractual agreements, resource management, quoting, and CRM, they're the core functions that you are doing all throughout the service process. And then your financials, for example, are all integrated, so there's no second guessing in that regard. So we look at the next screen, and here's just a typical workflow of the types of things that your process might involve. So again, we've covered this off in the integration map that I went through, but it just shows you a quick look at that. And it's a typical workflow process that you would have within your organization. So let's go into some product information quickly. So it is a job costing and equipment management, including preventative maintenance and corrective maintenance. Service Manager provides you with that 360-degree view, and that's what's so important here. We can track all equipment-related maintenance, and it's an essential tool for expanding your service organization, and it's integrated, and it's very scalable. So if you are putting on additional staff, we have sites up to 500 employees, so that can be quite useful. We do work in process accounting as well. We do work in process accounting. There's full profit analysis, so at any time in a job you can see what the revenue is, what the cost is, and what your profitability is. You can also see your labor hours incurred and those sorts of things. We can consolidate invoicing, so if you have many sites billing to one accounts receivable customer rather than send hundreds of invoices to that customer, you can consolidate your invoicing. We talked about scalability, issuing of parts, service, travel, time, labor tracking. There is non-billable functions as well, so we can take up non-billable time, tasks and activity checks, purchase requisitions. You know, it's a very comprehensive system, and you use what you need to use. Obviously, not everyone has the requirement for all the functionality that's in here, so only those functions that you need are required. We talked about those add-on modules earlier, and there's a brief summary here of what some of these add-on modules do, and I won't cover these in details. The PowerPoint will be available later to you, and you can see some of the key features from these modules. So Field Portal being our mobile software, and there is an app for Field Portal if you do need to work offline. Some of our companies work offline, they can do that with the app, and there's also the browser-based version, which is fully online. Really, the only difference is that the browser-based version allows invoicing online as well, whereas the app, obviously being offline, doesn't allow invoicing whilst you're offline. And we've got that customer portal, And you can see here, one nice feature also with the customer portal, besides the dashboards and paying of invoices, is that you can put in photographs and notations and attachments into the portal for your customer to read. So you could, for example, put your before and after photographs. So let's take the typical example that most of us experience, where we're having our car serviced, and you might see the before photograph of the car and then the completion of the service where the parts have been replaced. So you can do things like that with the portal, so that's very handy. We also, we've talked about the employee portal and service centers, and I'll just talk about Report Manager quickly. So we have a product called Report Manager, which allows you to improve the way your custom reports look. For those that have custom crystal reports, you'd often know that you've got parameters that don't look the best and are a bit harder to use. So these allow you to put pull down boxes, create finders, date pickers, check boxes, and text, and do that. And you can also create report groups. So it could be the end of month report, profit, balance sheet, those sorts of things. And most importantly, you can email those reports out at a scheduled time frame to your partners. So that could be something that could be useful. And just to talk about quickly, I won't be showing that today, but here's an example here. When you customize a custom report, you often get these parameters that you can see here on screen at the moment. But with Report Manager, you can turn that into a beautiful front end with finders, drop downs, check boxes, and so forth. So that's what it allows you to do, as well as group your reports, as I said, so that, for example, you might have your month end or year-end reports all grouped up for your managers, and you can schedule and email those out. Here's a quick look at the web screen. So I will actually show you a live video on these as we go a little bit later on. This is to show you the conversion for those of you that might be new to Service Manager. This is the job here on the left, and we can see our profitability being a job costing system. You can also see that we've got the advanced scheduling functions on the web as well. And now I'll move into a product demonstration. Today we're going to create some quotes. We're going to move those through to a job. We'll schedule some jobs. We'll look at time and materials in Field Portal, and we'll have a look at Customer Portal and maybe have a look at how all that works as well. Okay. There's a document workflow in this presentation. I'll just finish this presentation off quickly, and then we'll get into that demonstration so we can see it all running. So these are sorts of activities that you typically would do on a typical work day, from time entries, looking up historic jobs, creating a quote. You might even create that from a template, and then create a quote, and then move the job to a job. And that all happens in one process. So once you learn how to do any one of these functions, you know how to do the others as well. You might activate the job, and then it's ready for invoicing and it gets completed. So all those features are a typical workflow function. And you can see here, we've got a profitability, we've got some equipment on this printer being serviced, and so forth. Now, I thought I'd just quickly show you the Field Portal versus Field Portal app compatibility chart, so you can see the differences between the portal and the app. So the Field Portal, our basic product, works online, and the app works offline as well. You get both products for the same price, so you don't need to worry about that, and you can install both products too. Some people might want to work live, other people will be working offline, so you can have both running. I guess the key features to understand that are missing from the app is you cannot create new equipment on the app. So you can do that on the fly. You don't have the ability to create quotes on the app, but you can do that in the browser. And as I said, you cannot take invoicing or payments on the app, but you can in the browser version. So we talked about reporting earlier, so I won't worry about that, but there are over 150 actually standard reports that come with Service Manager, and then with Crystal Reports, you can create your own. There's a couple of sales points I'd like to point out. I thought it might be useful because we've got a number of different people joining us today. So you can see that Service Manager fits many, many industry categories, from heavy metalworking to farm machinery to chemical production and just to name a few, medical equipment and so forth. We cover a wide spectrum. There's over 6,800 standard industry codes, and of those we cover about 3,800 of those industry codes. So I'm sure we'll probably have a pretty good fit for anyone that is servicing or job costing in those sort of industries. There are some terrific resources available that we provide. We've got, besides the brochures and installation guides, we also have a great deal of technical documentation, white papers, PowerPoints, and in particular some really good, we have a huge video library now, so people can work with the videos on their own time, and they can start those, go back over them. And of course, Technisoft, I guess being in business over well, it's nearly 34 years now, technical support has kept us right at the forefront of that. So our technical support team is really A grade, and I think anyone requiring or asking questions knows they get responses immediately and are worked on very well. So that's basically it for the presentation. Okay, so what I thought I'd do first is show you a quick job in the system, and let's do that.
So we can see the Sage 300 desktop, and we can start the quote from within document entry. So I'll open up document entry. Notice there are different job or document types. So we can have a job, a sales order quote, template. We can look at historic jobs or recurring jobs, which are jobs that simply have a schedule on them. So let's start with the quote as described. So to create a quote from a template, I can use the copy function. So let's press copy. And from there, I can select template to create a quote from. A template is simply a recipe for a document. It can be a quote, a job, or a sales order. It's just a recipe that helps us get started so we can quickly enter detail. You can change that detail later if required. So I'm going to use the Finder here, and I have a template 4042. So we'll find that as a general service of an air conditioner. So let's add that and press the go button. I'm going to do the quote for customer 1100. However, if you are quoting for a new customer, you can use this icon over here to quick create a customer. That allows you to create an accounts receivable customer. In accounts receivable, that's presuming you have security to do so, and also a site and service manager. Usually the bill to and the site are one and the same, but you can have many sites billing to the one bill to, and you can consolidate invoicing later on if you wish as well. So let's choose customer 1100, which is our sample customer. And I'll put in our air conditioner here, which I know is equipment 151. We can use the Finder to find that if we wish. So there's our air conditioner. And all I need to do at this stage is to press proceed to create a new quote for this customer. So let's do that. And you can see that we successfully created quote 3206. It's okay. When I close down copy function, the quote will open, and we can see a very simple quote here for this customer. Now, this brought in the equipment that we're quoting. So you can see here our air conditioner. I can come over to the picture and have a look at what our air conditioner looks like. We can look at custom fields, if custom fields are applicable on that equipment. And you can see there we've got custom fields. These are user-definable fields that uniquify each piece of equipment, and they're unlimited. We can create as many custom fields as we like. And they can be changed, if required, when on site by the text in the field as well. Now, we can see there are two tasks on this particular quote. There's a task to do a valve check and a task to check and test electrical wiring and sensors. If we open those up, we can also see that there are some predefined services, a labour charge, calibration, call out, and some parts and services. Since it's a valve check, let's just remove those parts. We don't need those parts necessarily, and we'll keep it nice and simple. We'll just have a labour charge and a call out. And in fact, the labour charge could be coming from our mobile device as we record in the field, but I'll keep it simple for today's presentation. We also have a labour charge for the electrical wiring and sensor test if we were to perform that. Now, I may just remove that one from today's quote, And again, we'll just keep it simple. We're just doing a valve check. We've got some charges here, and there's that quote. So at this stage, it would be common for you to press the print button, and we would print the quote out, and that could be emailed directly to the customer. However, we do have another option. That option is to allow us to put the quote on the customer portal, so the customer logging in can see that quote and approve that quote live on the customer portal. So there are two options. One, we could just simply email this directly to the customer now. And the second option is we could put this on the customer portal. And to do that, we simply open up the header of the quote and we set this to show in the customer portal and press accept. So if we save that quote now, that quote will appear in the customer portal. It's quote 3206, and we can have a look at that in a moment in customer portal. So what I might do is just show you one other quick feature there, and notice that we set that to show in the customer portal. And from the customer portal, the customer can approve the quote, and when they approve it, this status will be set to approved in customer portal, so we know that quote has been approved and we can proceed with the work, which we'll do a little later on in the presentation. So two ways to send a quote to a customer. We could just simply email or print it and dispatch it, but normally we would email that, or we can put it on the customer portal for the customer to approve it real time. So that's probably the quickest way, because once it's approved, we know we can proceed. So let's do that now. So we'll save this quote, and it's quote 3206. So let's go over to the customer portal. I'll open that up now. Sorry, it's the wrong one. We'll just open the customer portal. And we'll log into the portal. So I'm logging in using my credentials. And login. Now you'll note as soon as we log in, we are greeted with a dashboard, and the customer portal allows your customers to do several things. Importantly, they can create a new request. That request can be for a job or a quote. So they could initiate that, they could have initiated that quote from the customer portal, or they could just simply ask for a new job, maybe one of their equipment, or they need some work done at their offices, whatever it may be. They can request a new job from there. So that's the first thing they can do from the portal. You can also find equipment. You can find by model or site. So if you are looking at your site's equipment, you may want to initiate that job based on the equipment that you found at your site. You can see over here that we have some pending requests already in the system requiring attention. The attention allows you to communicate, and you can have a chat with the service company live on site. So if they're logged in at the same time you are, you can chat live. If they're not, emails are sent between the two of you to advise the next steps. So we can see open, and over here on the right we can see jobs that have been created from those requests. So these are just requests that are either pending, haven't been actioned yet by the service company, or that are open, and we can look at those, and you can see there the red one means that I have to respond to those. So there are 18 in the list that I need to respond to, which I could click through, and I can see those by clicking on any of these drill twos and then respond to those. Now, other things that we can do on the portal is we can pay invoices, we can approve the quote, which is what we're here to do now. We can look at equipment on job, and we can even add meter readings. These are called tiles, and you can add tiles to this display on the dashboard, or you can remove them, of course. So if you don't take meter readings, you would remove that tile and not necessary to see that there. So we came here to approve the quote, which we'll do in just 1 second. There are 3 that are approved, and one of those should be the one we just created. Now, we can also drill into jobs. We can drill into quotes from here. We can look at invoices and pay invoices. So we can pay invoices online as a customer, and you can multiple pay invoices. So if there are 4 or 5 invoices outstanding, you can click all 4, let's say in that example, and pay all 4 at once. So that's also an option. So let's start with by clicking into the quote. And there's our quote there, 3206. So I'll click that quote. And I can print that quote, so let's print that to screen. Just takes a second while this renders. And you may wish to, print a hard copy for your records whilst it's out there. This is based on a Crystal specification, so you can have your own specifications with your own logos, so forth. If you use horizontal or landscape paper, you can use those as well as your specs. So we can see what the quote's for. It's a general service of my air conditioner. We can see information about my air conditioner, serial number and details, and we can see currently the parts that are required, a new valve and some labour charges, and a call-out fee in order to go out there. I can sign that off and maybe email it back, but what I can do, which is even easier than that, is I can approve. So let's approve this quote. And just before I do that, I'll just close that so we don't block it, and let's approve. And that quote has now been approved. You can see here, quote approved, and that's updated the quote. So let's go back and open that quote. And there are 2 things that have happened here. One is if we go back to the header, you'll note that the quote has been approved in customer portal. So we know the customer has gone in to approve the quote. So that's very useful. You could have that detail appearing out here. That's a field that can be customized so that your details tab could have that approval appearing out here so that we know it was approved. And the other thing that you'll notice is there a note has been attached to the job, and that is advising who approved it and what time it was approved. So that note is now attached there. Okay, so our quote has been approved, and let's start again. We created the quote from a template. We sent it to the customer. The customer logged into the customer portal, saw that quote, and they've approved it. Now, when we created that quote, it would have sent an email to the customer, and the customer knows that there is a quote pending there for them to approve. Okay. So next thing we want to do is now that the quote has been approved, we want to promote that quote to a job. They've given us the go ahead, so the next step is to promote this. Again, no rekeying or anything like that. We just simply press copy. And you can see that we're going to create a new job from a quotation. Quotation 3206. So let's press the go button. And I'll just take this agreement off for a moment. We do, Service Manager allows you to have service level agreements in place. That's where a customer may pay for a contract in advance for you to be out there. But because we're billing this contract, I don't want it to be covered by this current agreement, just for demonstration purposes. So we'll assign myself to the job, and let's proceed. So again, we've now copied the quote to a job 1472. So I press OK, and if I close this, job 1472, it should load up here for us. And you can see that job 1472 has loaded. So a couple of things have now happened in the background. One is that response tracking has been turned on, and you can see that we've got an hour to respond. So anytime we come in here, we'll get messages, and we can track all the jobs that are due to be responded to in our query tools so that we know what's becoming urgent and follow those up if we need to. So let's come back to the portal for a moment. And if I was logged into the portal and I go to jobs, and we'll just go down to the last job, and you can see job 1472 has now been listing on the portal. Normally you wouldn't see this many jobs in the portal unless you were a very large organisation like a hospital or something, but I'm just showing you we can now go to that job. So let's go click and drill in, and we can see here information about this job. And of course, being the customer, we don't get too much information, but we get enough to determine what's going on. So if I go to the equipment, I can see that it's our air conditioner that's being serviced. We can drill into that, and we can easily see more information about the equipment. if we want to, including its life cycle history, which is very useful for us. We can put in more requests, other jobs, tasks, and you can see any future tasks, which might be maintenance that's due for us as well. So the customer portal is very, very powerful. And let's just go back and we'll put our equipment. We can see the tasks that are being performed on that equipment. It was a valve check. Again, you could drill into that valve check and you can see the current status of that valve check and information about that. And lastly, we have notes. Now, notice there are no notes here at the moment. However, if I go back to the job for a second, and we'll just open that note because it happens to be here. So I can add other notes, of course, and I'm going to make that note public. By making that note public, it will publish that note at the website. So watch what happens now when I go back to the customer portal and we look at notes. I'll just refresh that because I had that open while we were there. And you can see the note is now appeared here and we can see information. And you can publish any notes to the portal. Typically, the most common notes that would be published is when a tech in the field might take a photograph of the before and the after. You can publish those photographs to the portal so the customer can actually see the before and after shots of the repair, which is always a very handy thing. You could publish other notes, maybe a signed contract that you'd like them to print and sign and return, a safety manual if they've requested a safety manual. So there's lots of things that you could post. The notes function is very important and very detailed. Okay, so at the moment, let's leave the customer portal for a while and we can return to the portal and log back in a little bit later. But I can follow the progress of this job at any time. I've got the status where it is. It's currently pending. It's been given a priority 1. I can see who's looking after the job. So imagine I'm looking after the job. So the next step in our workflow is to schedule this job and also to dispatch it to a tech who's working in the field. So what I'm going to do here for a moment is log out of here and we'll come back to that in just a moment. But the first thing I'm going to do is now schedule this job. So I'm going to open up advanced scheduling and I'll have that open to save some time. Oh, wrong one. Help if I open the scheduler. Okay, so you can see here I've opened up advanced scheduling. I'll do a brief summary of what we're looking at on screen here and then we'll schedule this job and we'll see how that impacts the field as we do that. So next thing to do is to look at the calendar. I'm looking at September the 29th here at the moment. You can choose a range of days and look at a range of days, or you can choose to go forward or backwards in time and look at jobs on specific days. There is also a job list view, so you can view things by job. Currently we're viewing up here by resource, so there's a resource. I'm hovering over that resource now, and you can see here details, their phone number, contact details. You can always right click and email that resource, their daily appointment listing, anything that you, or just a general email, if you just wish to send a general email. So that's how easy it is to do that. We can also see what number of jobs. So this, Andrea has 1 job for a total of 3 hours already scheduled for that day, and the other chaps here don't have any jobs scheduled. So what we're going to do is we're going to schedule a job for 9 a.m. and we'll schedule it for 2 hours. Let's right click and add an appointment or press the insert key on the keyboard. Before I do that, I'll just give us a little bit more real estate. And let's talk about one other thing, which is what are these colors? And if we look at coloring, we can see over here that we're coloring by the different statuses, and active is this light purple color. Active is this light purple color. And as we change status, these statuses here will also change with us. There are many different color combinations. You could color by priority, and you can see that's a priority 1 job, so it's gone red, and priority 5 is gray. You could color by job type if you wanted to see all your job types. So this is a air conditioning service, it's gone yellow. And we could color by service center. If you have multiple offices and you wish to color by the office that they're working in, you can do that. You can see the different offices. And then we can have status and zone coloring as well if you And I'll go back to status, which is where we were before, and that's this job's in an active status. If I hover over the job, you can see information appears about the job. All this information is customizable. You can change and remove fields here as required. And you can see at the bottom, the very bottom there's an acknowledgement comment, and that's going to come from the check later on when we come into this, come back to have a look at that. So you can see acknowledgement comment down the bottom there. So let's go and book this. Maybe I'll book this at 7 till 9. We'll make it a little bit earlier, 6:30 to 9. So let's go. And what I'll do is I can create a new job on the fly from here, but since we know that there's a job being created already, let's open up and let's put in job 1472, which is the one we just created from the quote. So let's select that, and you'll see here that we've got a air conditioning repair. It's for a Mitsubishi air conditioner, and we're doing a valve check. And we've allowed here on the time entry, we've allowed 3 hours for that as an appointment. Okay, so at the moment you can see here I've created an appointment. It's currently that light blue color. If we look at the light blue, let's see what that is. That's pending, so that job is in a pending status currently. All right. So let's go in while we do this and log in to the portal. So what I'm going to do first is we're going to log into Field Portal, which is where our checks work. And we'll keep this up in a nice display there for us. So let's go to Field Portal. Now there are 2 versions of our portal. There's the browser-based version, and when you see this on your mobile device, and it works with Apple iOS, it works with Android, and it works with Windows PCs and mobile devices. You can have any mobile phone or tablet. It's not a generic. It doesn't really matter. But when you load this on to a mobile device, you don't see the stop screen, of course. That's just because of my current option is a browser here, so I'm seeing the top of the browser. But on a mobile device, the top area disappears, and you just see this as a normal program on your mobile device. It can be you can go to large mode if you like, or it can be like on a phone. I'm just going to keep this in a sort of a phone style here for us in today's presentation. Now, I'll log in here, and when we log in, the system, if you were to lose your device, the system will time itself out automatically at a specified time, which is standard time specified is 15 minutes, but you can change that. And you can see that you can log into different companies. I'm logging into a sample company, but we could be logging into different companies. So let's log in. So thanks there. Okay. Now the first thing to note is that we've got a red option here saying dispatch jobs. So if I come back to the desktop for a second, and let's have a look at this appointment that we've created, you can see there's a dispatch tab, and it's set to dispatch to a assignee. And there are several different statuses there on the dispatch, and basically this one is being dispatched to assignee. This can be useful if you're wanting to email the tech in the field so they know they've got a new job on, or you simply are just trying to control who's getting what and when. So we've got that dispatch out there, and now let's go into the dispatch jobs, and let's have a look. And we should see the last one is job 1472. So let's click into that. And we can see now that I can acknowledge or reject. Now, I might reject it if, in case I'm out on another job and I can't respond at the moment, and then they know, please call someone else, and you can do that sort of thing. You can remove the reject button if you don't want your staff rejecting jobs, but for a lot of companies, they do give their staff in the field the option because they might be overloaded with work and they can't take that job. We'll acknowledge that, and I'll say, I'll be there in 10 minutes. So we could type anything we like there, and let's go save. Now, if we come back to the desktop, you'll notice when I hover over here, let's go to that hover again. Notice right down the bottom, the acknowledgement comment will be there in 10 minutes. Okay, so that's the first thing that happens, is the acknowledgement comment is obviously live in the field. Now, the next thing that could happen is, now that I've acknowledged that, and there are only 10 dispatch jobs left, notice I've got my daily schedule. If I click in there, there's my job 1472. And if I click on that, I could change the status of the job to say I'm on site, which I'll do in a minute. But before I do that, notice this little button over here on the right. Now that's a recorder, so that's how easy it is for someone to record the job. So my job is due to start at 7 a.m. It's going to 10 a.m. and I'm going to record this job. So let's go and I'll press the recorder. So let's start that recorder, and you can see the recorder has started. Now, if I stop the recorder now, I might be traveling to site and I can record my travel time, or I could then restart the recorder and record my labour time. So there's many things that you can do, and we have favourites, and I'll stop that recording a little bit later on to show you that. So the next thing we'll do is let's enter the job and pretend we're starting to work on this job. And we've got a nice structure here. It's easy to follow in the field. We've got our job information. We've got our customer or site information. We can tell who else is assigned. So if someone else were assigned to this job, there are 2 people. I could click in there and I can email or phone that person if I need to get, instructions to them, or, ask for directions to site, whatever that might be. And we can see the equipment that we're working on. And then we can see the valve check that we have that was created in the quote. And we're recording here our time. And then later on, we can add notes if we want to. There's some model notes that have appeared here. And we can sign off, and we can even invoice in the field if you wish. Today, we'll just keep it fairly simple, and we'll let the guys back at the office do the invoice, but we certainly could do it from here if we wanted to. Let's go into the job details next, and let's change the status. So what I'd like to do here now is change the status from pending to active and save. So we've activated the job. And now that it's activated, I could say that, okay, well, let's change that status to on-site. Now, you can see there are a lot more statuses appearing here now, and that's because there is a status workflow, and workflow can determine what I can and can't do. So I may not be able to use some of these statuses because I'm not authorized. It could be requiring an approval status, for example, and if I don't get an approval, I can't change the job. Statuses can also determine whether you can add parts or labour, whether you can modify equipment, add a new phase, invoice, do a cost-only entry. So there's lots of things that a status can control. So let's just say that I'm on site now. And if we come back over here and click, you can see it's turned to dark purple. And if we look at our legend, you can see on site is dark purple. So that's why we're seeing the dark purple. So over here, we can see everything happening live as a dispatcher. Notice also it's a bit hard to see perhaps on screen, but you can see this little blue icon here, the play button. So we're currently recording on site. So I can tell even that someone is recording time on site as a dispatcher or coordinator. There's a lot of things I can do there. So now I'm booked for 1 hour and for one job for 3 hours, as you can see. I can go to just a couple of things on advanced scheduling before we move back to the portal, or field portal, and we can go to a weekly view. If we have a weekly view, it could be that I'm away sick today. It's very easy to reschedule. If I was to move that around here, that would reschedule to Andrea and take it off my mobile device and put it on Andrea's mobile device. We can look at a month view, and of course there's not much going on at the moment, so you can see here it's pretty clean sample data, and there's not much going on. And then we can look at a timeline view, and this gives you your time across the top, so it's more of I can scroll from day to day and see what's happening between the different days. Some people like this view. You can still create new appointments here by colouring and inserting, and so or painting and inserting, and so you can still do that at any stage. So we can see what's there. And the last thing is we go to our summary tab, and if we look at that, we can see on our heat map, we call this a heat map. So currently, if it was red, I would have more than 8 hours in my day. If it's green, I'd have less than 1 hour, and you can see these different shades of green, less than 2 hours, or less than 3 hours, less than 2 hours. So that's what we've got here. And if I want to reschedule someone, I can either double click there, or here maybe someone's asked me for an appointment next week. I can just double click here and say it's free and go in and do an appointment. So that's all easily done from those functions. So let's go back now to our device, and let's have a look at what we can do here with our equipment this time. So first of all, we can see critical information about the equipment: serial number, when it's expired, its installation date, its asset number, where it's located in the building, because I could be, on a 30-story building and I need to find where this equipment is located. We can look at the equipment's history. We can transfer the equipment if we need to. We can edit details. We can even take a meter reading if the equipment is being metered. And we can look at fields or custom fields, as we saw before. So in the field, I could open custom fields and I could look at the unit, and it's an outdoor unit. What are the text options? 1 to 43. I can put in options, or I can even type over that, and I can go to the next kilowatt, size, and I might say, 50 kilowatt, and save, and so forth. So we can make changes live in the field as we're going, and just as we put on the desktop. So the next thing we might do is set a lat long. So, for example, your equipment might be in a mining site, and it doesn't really have an address or location. It could be just in a big area in the building. You want to go straight to that area. So you can set a lat long here, and your phone will capture that lat long, latitude, longitude, and you can then use your map to quickly find that equipment. We also have a valve check. So we've got a task here, if you recall, to do a valve check. Let's click in there. And we might take a numeric measurement or a text input. We could do check procedures, a question, or another measurement here. So tasks have what we call activities, and tasks can have unlimited activities. There are 4 types: a numeric measurement, text input, check procedure, question, and so forth. So we can have 50 check procedures if we wish, a couple of measurements, and any combination that we like. If I go into the measurement, you can see the voltage, and I'll put in 13 volts. So it was reading 13 volts. I can add comments here, all good, and save and go to the next one. What was the condition of the valve? I can say in moderate damage. I can have predefined drop downs here. I'll say in good condition. If I say yes, we can then go to the next one and check the valve O-ring. I did that. It's just a check procedure. And the last one was the valve O-ring perished. And notice this is a question here. So if I say no, it says continue to next activity. If I say yes, replace the valve O-ring, and I might just put in here replace. So these are the types of activities that you can have for your tasks. And I've completed. I've got one more measurement to take, PSI. So let's say it was running at 4 PSI, and save. And our task is now completed on the job. So that can be really useful, and you can see any skill sets that might be required to do this task. And we can set the complete state. So let's complete it. Did it pass, or set the reason for not passing? So I'll say it did pass. If it didn't pass, you can select the reason. Maybe the equipment wasn't found, or it was damaged and we couldn't do the work. So you can also always do that. So let's go back. Now remember, this is updating the jobs real-time live. So if you would open that job, you would see that being added immediately. Let's stop the recorder now. We're finished. Let's say you can see the recorder has opened up again. Now note that I've got some favorite services here. So what was I doing? Was I traveling to site? I might have been recording that. Was I carrying out labor? I could have been recording that, or even just the call out feed. But let's do our labor charge here. And so what that's done is now added the labor charge directly to the job, and that can be approved prior to retrieving it to the job, just in case you need to change details. There are other things that we can do. We can add new tasks while we're on site. We can add another appointment and reschedule if we wish. We can take faults. So this equipment might have had a particular fault, and we might want to log that fault. We can do that by clicking here, and we can add a fault. We'll see that in a moment. Okay. So what was the symptom? It could have been a fuel leak, a fan motor noise. What was the fault? Problem with power. And what was the solution? Replace the fan bearing. And so you can see we can also log very quickly a symptom, fault, and solution. And so that can be also useful. We can add parts here. So if you're taking parts off your van, you can add parts. They can be scanned. So let's go and add an item. If we wanted to take it apart, we can find that. It can be another service or a contractor service, but we're just going to add an item. And it could be a water filter, whatever it is. And we've added a part. You can see that, and we save that, and that's now been added as well. So you can see a water filter and a labour charge. I want to edit that labour charge. I can come in here at any time and edit. We only got 9 minutes there, so let's change that to 1 hour. Bring it up to 1 hour 9 minutes. I'll do that. So you can just use your clock as you like. It's nice and easy for people. You're just using fingers, set duration, and we'll make that 1 hour. Save and update the job. So that's all been updated. If I wish to change that now, I might say it's ready to be invoiced. So let's set that to a ready to invoice status, which is up here. And save. We change the job details as part of that functionality, and that's all set. We can even take a sign off here. So if I wanted to go and sign now, and we'll sign with the signature, so I can now put in my name, mark, and sign off and save. Those signatures are added to the job, and they're stored in a special place, repository on the servers, so they're quite nice and secure. If you wish to add a note, you can do that at any time. We'll go back to the job, and you can see any information that we had all working on there. And there was a flow diagram with the model notes here, so we can go and see the flow diagram as well. And what we'll do is we'll just add a new note. Do that in a moment. So we've signed off. At this time, we could do a report. So there are several reports that you can print. So if we come into the report, we can print a work order or a customer confirmation. And there are up to 20 customer reports that you can have on your device as well that you can use here. So if I was to print that, a work order, I'll just do one quickly. Normally it'll probably be a customer confirmation, but I've started that already, so let's start the work order. So this will print a work order, and you can email this directly, or if you do have a printing device, you can print directly to that device if you've got a mobile device. Got a lot of I/O on my server here at the moment, so I'm not sure what's going on. Should have been. Here we go. And I can either open the report, or I can send it by email. So if I open the report, you can see the report here, and we can show that to the customer. And the signature can appear on there as well. If you've got that on your Crystal report, the signature is quite capable of appearing on those reports. Otherwise, I could send that by email, and that report would go straight to email. Okay, I'm just going to add a note now just quickly. Let's do that before we do anything else. And you can see here that we can choose a file. So if I added a note, I might just put in here, this is a demonstration note. And I'll add a file, and I can look in different folders. So I can specify what folders these guys are allowed to look at. If I look at images or PDF, I'll put in PDF, choose a file, and you can see here I've got a data sheet for a pump. So let's choose that, and I've uploaded that. As soon as I save, I can upload that file, and that would be available in the job details. Now, you can see here the demonstration. You can go in there, you can add additional notes if you wish. So if I wanted to come back here and add another file, I can say upload a JPEG, and if there was a JPEG there, I've got a compressor JPEG. Let's do that, and I'll save that, and the compressor's been uploaded. So those are now available for us to look. And of course, if I had made those public, they'd be available also on the website. So if I make that public and save that, they can now see those notes at the customer portal when they log into the customer portal. So we'll go back there a little bit later and have a look at that just as we're finishing off. So we can see here that there's a lot of things that we can do from the field portal. If I go into site, I didn't do this before, but there's an address, and if I click that address, I can get a map that it'll render on my device using the device's mapping tool, and we can get directions. If you want directions, you can get directions to wherever you're going, and that can be a useful feature as well. So that's quite a good feature. You can call it if you've got a SIM card on your device. You can call from here. You can create a new job. You can create a new quote. You can edit custom fields. Now these are site custom fields. So let's have a look at what some of those. Where is parking? So parking could be metered, underground, valet. So we can do things like that. There could be a security code on the gate. There could be a dog on the premises. So we can have a whole bunch of custom fields relating to that site as well. And we've been through the equipment and the things that we can do. If I wanted to invoice, I can press the invoice button and I can see what's on this job ready for invoicing. Now, if I was going to take this in the field, I could. We don't do credit card functions in the field. However, you can, if you had a Square device or something like that, you could take the payment and then input the payment as being paid here. And that's, either cash, MasterCard, whatever payment was, by account, transfer, Visa. So you can do that at any time. You can put an input receipt if you need to and set the invoice amount and take payment. But we don't do the actual Square payment that you might use, using a device like Square to take the credit card payment in the field. So we could do that, but I'm not going to do that from here. We just simply post the invoice. We can preview it before printing, and we can take the payment, and we can also print to email as we do that invoice, so we can send the invoice directly to the customer via email. So that's all doable there. If you don't use invoicing in the field, or your guy's not allowed to invoice in the field, you turn that functionality off, and all these features disappear to simplify what you're doing there. Okay. So we've pretty much taken a look at what happens in the portal, and if I go back home, we can see that the job, what we had on today, we've finished recording. There's lots of things that we can do with like our weekly schedule. If I'm a manager and I'm logged in, there could be several employees that I'm looking at, and I can look at an employee schedule. We can look at jobs that have been dispatched to me over the dispatch process we went through earlier. We can search. This can be handy. I could be on a very big site and I look at an equipment list, and I might want to find equipment by serial number or equipment number. If I scan into this field and there's a serial number, I scan that in, it will find the job that equipment's on, and I can quickly edit that job. So there are all different features that we can use to find things. We can enter a timesheet. There's a full timesheet entry at the end of the week. You might want to come in and just check all your jobs and enter your timesheet from there. You can do that. And again, most of these things can be turned off by default if you don't need them on. So there's quite a set of powerful tools available to you here. Okay, we can add non-job appointments. So you might be going to the doctor or the dentist or something like that. You can create your new jobs and quotes from out here as well. And you can look at creating new equipment. So if you're on site and you're servicing the equipment that have called you out for, but they say, look, while you're here, could you have a look at this equipment? And it doesn't exist. Maybe you didn't sell that equipment. You can also create new equipment for your customers. And we can see the most recent jobs we've been working on. So we can quickly drill back into those by clicking there. Again, a lot of these features can be turned off if you don't want adding appointments or new jobs quotes and so forth. These can all be turned off and simplify these screens as required. All right, so let's log out for a moment. It's very simple, as you can see, to see a job, start a recorder, stop a recorder. That's all they might need to do. They can add a note there as well. It can be as simple as that. I just showed a few of the more advanced features as well. Let's log out. Right, let's go back to the job for a moment and we'll reopen that job. And you'll notice over here on the job that there is another note here, and that note has my signature there. So if I click on that and we open it up, we can see the signature has been taken. And we can see that in the job. Now, we're working in the field and we've got an appointment set to be approved by management before we retrieve that to the job. I could have, retrieved an invoice that in the field, but I chose not to. So there's a demarcation point which allows us to retrieve it and then approve it. So we go into Time Manager here. That's the program that allows us to retrieve. And you'll see down the bottom here, there's our job 1472. And if we open that transaction, you'll see on the items and services, there's the item that we added. And there's the notes with the attachments that we had a PDF and a JPEG. So they're all there. They haven't been retrieved yet because it may be that I was working and in the field I put it to the wrong job. Unlikely, but it could be. It could be that I wish to change my services before I add them or the number of parts. Maybe I put the wrong part on there and I need to change that. So there's lots of things that we can do prior to retrieving them to the job. Once we're ready and we've approved it, we can simply tick these. We can tick multiple green. You can see the green there, they're due for retrieval. We can tick all the green ones if we want to, and then we can just simply press retrieve and they'll be retrieved to the job. So they've been retrieved and those entries are now present on the job. So it's just a demarcation point. They can be auto retrieved if you wish, but it's always useful to check those. Most people do like to go through all their work in the field and check them before retrieving them. Let's go and open that job again. And if we open that job, we can now see information that was added to that job. All the task information, you can see the notes there that were added to that task. And we can see the attachments that were added as well. And, we can click there and we can open up on the hyperlinks and see all the attachments as required. So there's a data sheet on a pump that might have been replaced. And if we look here, we might see a compressor. We can either open up. Now notice that was set to public. So if we now, we'll just go and have a look at the website again. We'll log into the customer portal. So we're logged into the portal. I'll just refresh that. And if we go across the jobs, you can see here, let's go down to the last job. We know that'll be ours, 1472. There it is there. So if we go and have a look at the progress of that job as a customer, if I look at notes, I can now see a data sheet and a Kaiser pump. So if I open that up, I'll see the data sheet, which is really useful. Or I can see, I'll just close down the browser. I'll just log back in quickly. And if we go to jobs, and we'll just go back to that job that we're on, which should be the last one, 1472. And cite that again so you can see it was quoted from our quote. All the way through it was ready to invoice. We invoice it and we added notes here and we can drill in. So this could be the before and after shots of the equipment, which is really handy. The customer can see that. You can leave notes for them and attachments. As I said, this is a data sheet. It could be a safety document or anything else that you wish to leave. They can see the task. They can drill in to see what happened to that task now and whether it passed or it didn't pass. Whether it's selected, so we can do all that sort of information as well. Go back and look at the original quote if they want to. They can do that. So that's always handy to do if you need to. It's quote 3206. We could drill back in and go and have a look at that quote. Let's go to the home screen. Now, of course, we can invoice from here as well. So the customer is wanting to pay their invoice, and if you had a invoice Marie, this invoice would appear here as one of their invoices. So let's go in there and have a look. And if we go right down, there's a few invoices here for this customer. It's a sample customer. And the last invoice is 88, invoice 88. So that's been put in the system, but that's not our invoice. So let's come back here in a moment. Let's just minimize the screen for a second. And we could invoice these things, the water filter and anything else that's here. So let's go post the invoice. And we can see the totals here. There are a couple of parts, control valve and an item. I'm going to not invoice the control valve for the moment. And I can preview the invoice if I wish prior to it. I can even take a payment here, but I'll just post this invoice. And say yes. And I'll accept that. Approve the authority. And we'll print in an invoice. I could print this here if I wish now, but I won't. I'll just say no to that. And we do have an invoice available. We can go over to the summary tab to quickly view our invoice. You can see our invoice here. You can right click and reprint or change options there, and double clicking will print that invoice if you wish from there. You can reprint it using the print function and view anything. You can even change, maybe you've just reviewed the invoice and there's something wrong with the bill to address, or that you wish to change your notes. You can update that and reprint that invoice prior to sending if required. Okay, so we've got an invoice there, and that's invoice 1224, as you can see. So let's close that down for a moment, and let's go back to our portal. And we'll just refresh the portal so the invoice appears. Actually, I think it was the first one. So just go there. 1223, there it was there, and 1224. So I'll just double check what our invoice was, 1224. So let's go and have a look at 1224. And there's our invoice. If we wish to print that, we can. We can see all the information. There's our signature on the invoice. There's that. And of course, the most important thing is I can pay this now. So I click pay now. I could pay this with a credit card payment now using my credit card, which I won't do for the purpose of this experiment, but or this webinar. But we can just simply submit the payment, and that would automatically take that payment. I don't have my credentials for the sample database here, unfortunately, so I can't go any further. But it's very simple. You put in your credit card details and submit payment. That's it. The customer's done. You're done, and you've been paid. So thank you for joining me today. That's the full workflow process. Of course, that's happening from different people at different levels. Very simple, very straightforward. But of course, all business processes aren't always in reality that simple, but there's a full workflow example for you.